Keep washing the tractor. I want it clean, Gianna. Hey, and welcome to Hoosier Helpers. Today we got an episode that we're going to be focusing on putting the snow chain back on the G1800 that fell off. We're also going to be pulling the BX2660 down, and we're going to be doing a pressure check on it. Throughout that portion of the episode, I'm going to be explaining a little bit about why we have a BX when we only have 2/3 of an acre. So stay tuned. Thanks. Bye. So you probably noticed there I had to actually jump start the tractor, and it's not uncommon. This tractor, since we've had it, so my dad bought it new in about '93, and we used it exclusively for mowing my entire childhood. It's always 8 batteries. This tractor will go through a battery every 2 years if you let it. And what part of the problem is if you look at the way they designed it, even though I know they were trying to do the best thing, they put the battery up in front and it's right next to the muffler. And then you've got the air cleaner on front. In addition, you've got all that hot air from the radiator blowing across the front of the engine, and it essentially just boils the batteries. So what you have to do every year is you have to remove the battery, clean it, make sure you have no electrolyte shorts going across the top of the battery. Make sure the battery maintains a full level, so using distilled water to make sure those levels are appropriate, and you got to keep it charged. Other than that, once it's running, it's an excellent tractor. So while we're doing the tire chains, I'm actually going to take the battery out, clean it, check the electrolyte levels, and start charging it. So that'll be part of it. It'll be going on in the background. You won't have to watch that. So anyway, look forward to this episode. So hang around. Thanks. The first thing you have to do is you have to pull the air breather, which is a simple strap, and you can flex the hoses around enough. Now you'll also notice that on the battery here, I'm missing my hold down bracket. I've actually got it, but at some point it lost one of my J hooks. So I need to get a couple end wrenches, pull the battery cables off. I'm also going to clean those battery cables before we reinstall them, and we'll make sure the posts are nice and clean. I'm going to get a close up here so you can see what the top of that battery looks like. So here you can see where the caps are on this battery and where they've definitely boiled some electrolytes out, and I'm sure is causing some shorts through that electrolyte from the positive side of the plates to the negative side of the plates. So we'll get that all cleaned up, make sure it's good and dry, and then check those levels. I'm going to go ahead and pull that completely out, lay it to the side. Pull the ground cable off first. That way, if you accidentally touch one of the metal frame when you're taking off the positive, it doesn't arc. Now, some of you know this was a brand new crate engine. It's a D722 engine that I had bought when I got this tractor for my dad. And with the 18 horse, it's got more than enough power for a 54-inch deck. So this would have been the same engine in a G1800. So what we got here is just a little baking soda and water mixed in this bowl with a toothbrush, an old toothbrush. And then we've got a bottle of just clear, clean water for rinsing. And we're gonna go through there, and you can see that it's reacting with the acids that are on that battery. But we're gonna try to be careful not to make a huge mess with it. Clean that off. Should also wear safety glasses when doing this because you don't want to accidentally brush or flick some of that stuff into your eye. Could cause permanent blindness pretty quickly. So now I'm just gonna take this clear water and I'm gonna spritz out as much as I can. I'll also neutralize the table when we're done because I know there's still some active acid there, but I need to be able to get in there. I can't do it as it is, so. Still seeing some reaction. That's all right. That side's looking better. Want to be careful not to knock any of that grass and trash down into the cells. I bought this G1800 to take some stuff off of it and to put on my G1800 some attachment kits, and then I sold it and I needed a good battery in it, so I took my battery out and put a brand new battery in mine to ensure that I wasn't giving away a $100 battery on something that I wasn't really trying to make money on. I was just trying to get some stuff for myself and then recoup the money that I had invested. So if you ever look at our page picture on YouTube, you'll see that there's 2 G series mowers, and that one of those was the one that I bought to sell. All we got here is distilled water, just in a little ketchup squirty bottle. You can buy these bottles from like a grocery store or something. They work well for this. Just go get a gallon of distilled water. Make sure it's distilled, not just filtered water, because you don't want to have any of that mineral content that could reduce the life of your battery. Bring it up so that that electrolyte level is to the bottom of the little gauges. All right, so I got them all filled. I'll take my paper towels here. One last wipe out of this cap area. And then we will be ready to install the caps. Good firm push. Make sure they're seated well. So this is not a battery post cleaner. The plumbers or the folks that have worked on plumbing probably know what this is. It's for cleaning copper pipes. Should work okay as long as I can kind of go around and clean those posts. Couldn't find my battery post cleaner, so I'm improvising. I knew where this was at. So we're hooking the battery charger cables up. I'm going to plug it into the wall. And we're going to set the charger on 2 amps. Okay, so much the same as we did on the battery, we're going to take these battery cables and run our wire brush in there, cleaning any oxidation that happened off. So we're back to working on getting this snow chain back installed, and I found out the chain didn't actually break. What happened was the hook that hooks for the inside had flattened out enough that it was able to come unhooked. So we're going to straighten that, or I guess rebend it. There we go. And these were, although not cheap, they're not they're not the highest grade chain in the world. We're gonna dump the air pressure on the tire again. It is what it is, so we're gonna tighten these things up, zip up the excessive chain, get them pulled up and out of the way, and then I'm gonna bolt this wheel back on. We're gonna check our battery, see where it's at. It probably needs to charge for a little longer, but in the meantime, I'll do a little cleaning, a little maintenance on the tractor, check the oils and stuff. So I got a couple used ties here I'm going to use up. Side. So there you can see high mark is here, low mark is there. We're somewhere in between, which is fine because this tractor is due for an oil change. So the hydrostat on this tractor is kind of similar to the other tractors. You have a fill plug here, and then you got the dipstick here. Now with my wheel weights, or my weights that I've got bolted on back here, makes it a little trickier to get into it, but isn't too bad. Well, you just pull it out, wipe it off, and then pull it out and check it. And we are right at the full mark. I'm going to take you downstairs here and show you how the PTO comes through. So it's a belt-driven PTO, and they actually use the pivot pin of the front axle. It's a hollow pin, and they run the PTO shaft through the center of that pin. That PTO shaft that you see there is running on two bearings that set inside the shaft that goes through as a pivot shaft. And when you grease the pivot shaft, there's a small hole that allows a little bit of grease to go up into those bearings. So the pivot shaft that's in there, and here's a picture of it, you can see the original versus the new one, was worn to the point that it was causing a lot of slack in the front axle. There's also some wear shims inside here, which also help to tighten up that axle. So I put in the new pivot pin, and I put new bearings in it and new seals to rebuild that PTO drive. Also, the PTO belts, I replaced those. Also, similar to the BXs, you have a drive shaft under here, driven from the engine, that it drives into a fan. This shaft is known to have issues. The U-joints in it are a pain in the butt, and if you need to replace them, it's not an easy task to get that shaft off, especially if it's sat for a long time. So I put new U-joints in and rebuilt that drive shaft. All right, so in the opposite order of the way we removed it, we're gonna first install the positive cable. I like to give it a tap down, maybe drive it on just a little bit. We'll tighten that up. So I went over to the hardware store to get a new hook. I was actually hoping for just a bolt, and I preferred a metric bolt so they would have been the same, but they didn't have any that were long enough to make the hook, but they did have this little hook. It's 1/4 inch. Unfortunately, it's a soft bolt, so You just have to be a little more careful with it.
Not exactly an ideal way to strap a battery, but I guess it's worked for 28 years of this tractor's life. All right, that feels pretty tight. Let's get the air filter back in place. Air filter strap. Now let's see if it'll start.
So what we're going to do today with the BX, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we bought it. I'm also going to be checking the hydraulic pressure. It's something I've wanted to do for quite some time, but I never had a pressure gauge to do that. So this tractor we bought used, and to the best of my knowledge, I am at least the 4th owner of it. I do know that one person had it that bought it originally. They sold it to a dealership and bought something else. The only reason I know that they sold it to a dealership was the key had a dealership tag on it and they had the stock number on the back. And I called the dealership and they said, yeah, they remembered this tractor. They bought it used from a guy that had traded it on a bigger tractor. So apparently the BX wasn't big enough. And then they had it for some time. Now, I bought it with 140 hours on it, and I bought it in 2019. And it's a 2010 build year. So it was 9 years old, 140 hours. That dealership told me that they sold it to an individual. They didn't tell me anything about him, but the guy I bought it from said he bought it from an older gentleman that only used it to haul firewood. So there's where at least I'm the 4th owner. Is the first person that had it sold it to the dealership. They sold it to somebody else who then sold it to the guy I bought it from, and then me. So other than that though, it only had 140 hours on it when I bought it, and now it's got 243, so I put 100 hours on it since I've owned it, which isn't a lot. It's all mainly been Hoosier Helper stuff and a little bit of my own tilling. Why we're going to check it, I don't have any idea what anybody has done with this tractor. I have no clue if somebody's messed with the relief springs or what. So that's why we're going to do it. I'm going to start the tractor up and I'm going to let it warm up until at least the engine's at operating temperature. In order to warm up the hydraulics, I'm going to stall the 3-point hitch lift. Install the hydraulics on the top one. So there it looked like it was hitting right around that 1700 PSI. And watching Biff's equipment and Mike do some adjustments to his, I think that's about what his came out with stock. And so if I did want to up the pressure a little bit, I probably would be safe to. But one of the things I have to keep in mind is I'm not running any ballast at the time I throw on the box blade or the tiller, and I'm using that for ballast. But even with that, the loader can get into a situation where it can start to make that rear of the tractor kind of light, especially if you're hooked onto something and you're trying to lift and you're pulling and prying on it. That rear axle can get pretty light. So I don't know that I'd want to up any pressure until I loaded tires and put on significant ballast weight. But it's good to see that the tractor is able to perform at the level that it should. Well, that's going to do it for Hoosier Helpers on this episode. Please remember to like and subscribe. Hit that little bell button so you get notifications when we release new videos. If there's any videos that you would also like to see, please feel free to add some comments. Love to hear from you. The other thing I want to say is a big thank you to all the subscribers. We hit 100, and that is huge for us. We're super excited about it, and we're looking forward to the next 1,000. So thanks, and have a great day. Bye.